Oh mate, I'm tight as. There's nothing but spiders and cobwebs in my wallet. Hey guys, MiracleMAX here. Guess what? Well, it's time to do some maintenance on your vehicle. When was the last time you changed the spark plugs? Let me see, it was, let me think, I haven't got a clue. That's right, they're probably due for replacement. How do you do it? Well, watch this video, and by the end of this video, you should have the skills to replace the spark plugs in your vehicle. There's quite a variety in the range of spark plugs, coils and plug leads. In this case we're looking at a BA Falcon. Once the engine cover is lifted off the top, what we have here is a coil on plug style of ignition coil. Once that connector is removed, the coil simply comes off the spark plug. Quite easy to access, and the coil is actually held down by the engine cover itself. Other styles include a distributor, as we can see here in this KJ laser, and it has plug leads, and the plug leads go down the center of the head, which doesn't give much access to the spark plug themselves. Here's another system called a direct fire ignition system. We have 3 coils that are mounted. Each coil will care for 2 cylinders, and it goes onto a DFI module. If we have a close look, we follow those plug leads there, and that in fact will go down in between the exhaust manifold where the spark plug's kept. Or it could be a coil pack where all individual coils, 4 in this case, in this AH Astra, are combined into one pack. To remove this, we would need to unbolt the coil pack itself with each of these little bolts here, and of course pull off our wiring up that end. Or in the case of this Mazda Tribute, we have coil over plugs here. This is on the front bank, so it's a V6 configuration. 1, 2, 3 along here, but yes, guess what? We've got an inlet manifold sitting over the back 3. Fantastic, good plan. We're seeing this a lot more and more in a V configuration with a transverse engine, so east-west engine. So for those of you that aren't confident removing spark plugs, you might want to leave this to someone with a little more skill perhaps. But those of you that do have the skill level, the inlet manifold will need to be removed to access your back 3 spark plugs. So before we can get our spark plugs out, we need to remove our plug leads. In this particular case, these have plug leads off of a coil pack over here. Other ones I showed you before have a coil pack that goes, or a coil on plug that goes directly onto the spark plug. But in this case, we need to remove the leads. Make sure that you remove them from any hold down clips so that you have plenty of stretch on your plug leads. And when you remove your plug leads, just give them a bit of a wiggle and gently pull them out. Do not pull them on the plug lead themselves, but actually the boot itself. So grab a hold of that, give it a wiggle and pull it out. So to pull out your spark plugs themselves, these are actually quite a deep reach. As I mentioned, you'll need an extension bar as well as your ratchet. Also, there are generally 2 sizes of sockets that you'll need to remove the spark plug. This is a 5/8 and this one here is a 13/16. So in this case, my spark plugs take this 5/8 one. So we pop him in and slide him right down the center there. Now remember, I've told you before in my Tight As series, when undoing right hand threaded nuts, it's lefty loosey, righty tighty. So I need to go anti-clockwise, don't I? I need to undo it this way. So make sure you support the ratchet here and push, and hopefully it should come out quite easily. They're not too tight. Once you've got them undone, it can be hard to get the actual spark plug out. As you can see, it's still in there. What am I going to do? Some of these sockets have a rubber boot in there. This one doesn't. So what I'll use is a magnet to pull that out. There we go. Magnet works. Okay, what if you don't have a magnet? Well, what you could always do is make sure that your spark plug is totally undone. So make sure it's all the way undone. And perhaps you could put the plug lead back on. and then there you go, voila, we've got the plug out. So as with everything with modern technology, even spark plugs are becoming more and more complex. They have such a vast range. There's just a few variations we need to keep in mind. We don't need to know all the makes and models of them, but our spare parts specialists will be able to help us there, but they are able to get it through either a written catalogue in this case or an online catalogue, which is more common nowadays. One of the good things with up the back of the catalogue, and online of course as well, is that they will give you a range of analysis for the spark plugs that you pull out. There may be various faults, and this can give you a bit of guidance into what is causing the fault to the spark plug. As I mentioned already, there's quite a range of spark plugs on the market. Platinum, yttrium, iridium, the list goes on and on. We don't need to be concerned about those for home maintenance, but we do need to know and make sure that we have the correct spark plugs for our particular vehicle. Here's an example. Notice the seat has actually got a washer on it, so that's a washer style seat. That's pretty important to note. And also notice the center electrode is very, very fine. Can you see that? Very, very fine. Generally around about 0.6 of a mil in this case. Other ones may include this one here. You can see that it has a washer on it, but notice the socket size is a lot different from this one here. This one here is the 1316, this is the 5/8. This one over here is interesting as well. Notice that washer is gone and it's been replaced with a tapered seat. And here's just an example of a faulty spark plug and the reasons behind it. Sorry, wrong end of the spark plug. There we go, that's what I'm meant to be looking at. Sorry, my bad. You can see this particular spark plug's had a bit of a hard time, but notice the center of it, the center electrode has lost its insulation. That would have fallen into the cylinder, and we can see that the earth electrode has actually been pounded. It's all bent out of shape, isn't it? But that's just to give you an example of different faults that can occur. We can have a look online, or we can have a paper-based catalogue that will give us guidance into how tight to do our spark plugs. If we have a look at our flat seat type, that was this fella over here, remember the one with the washer? So that needs to be done finger tight and then half a turn with your socket and ratchet. The other type is this type here. This was the tapered seat, remember that one? They list it here as a conical seat type. But in this particular case, we do it finger tight and then we do it 1/16 of a turn, so it's not overly tight, you'll feel it go tight. So that's the guide of how tight to do the spark plugs in your particular vehicle. So make sure that you're aware of whether you have a tapered seat or if you have a flat style with that washer. Let's put it into practice. Years ago we used to worry about how close to have our spark plug gap. That was really, really important, and we would be given a correct gap to do with feeler gauges in our catalogue. Nowadays we don't have to worry about that, simply because they've been kind enough to put it on the end of our packet for us. If we can get in there close enough, there we go. Notice it says ZFR5F, then it's got 11. That 11 represents 1.1 mil gap. So these are pre-gapped, which is excellent, saves us heaps of time. So now all we have to do is put them in. Just a bit of a heads up, it's a good idea to make sure that they haven't been dropped at all, because that plug gap would then close over. So I like to check every single gap and make sure that they are still open, they haven't been dropped at all. So next thing is we stick them in the hole. It's okay to just drop them down there, it's not going to hurt anything. Just gently drop them down, that shouldn't be an issue. Next thing to do is to put our socket in place and just do it up finger tight. So we do them up fairly firm, of course, it's not really loose. Okay, so now I'm just going to tighten them appropriately. We had a look in our book before. Being a washer style, it needs to be turned roughly around about half a turn. So it should go half a turn, and in theory that should be tight enough. As long as you've got it finger tight, that is. So we're going around about half a turn. Half a turn. As I mentioned before, when you go to tighten it, make sure you support it with your hand there. So once again, roughly round about half a turn. Now that we've tightened up our spark plugs according to the specifications, all I have to do is put my plug leads back in. But make sure that you push them down all the way. They have to sit on top of the spark plug, and then you'll push them into place. You'll hear it click down. Of course, another thing to keep in mind is to make sure that they go in the appropriate cylinder. It's very easy to get it wrong if you have a myriad of plug leads either side in a V configuration, for instance. It's not a bad idea to actually mark them. So here, for instance, is number 1 for my particular vehicle. So I'd get a white texture and I'd put 1, I'd put 2, 3 and 4. You don't want any misfires. So for instance, these particular spark plugs are good because, believe it or not, they have markings on them already. You can see here we have number 3. In this case we have number 2, number 4, and of course number 1 is hidden up underneath. So now that I've pushed my plug leads down, let's see if it starts. Beautiful. Good job. We've now replaced our spark plugs and I'm happy with the results. All I have to do now is take it for a road test and make sure there's no hesitation, miss or anything like that. If you enjoyed this video and you haven't already, please make sure that you subscribe. Give it a like and feel free to give me any comments down below. This series tight as money saving tips hopefully will help you become more confident in doing some basic repairs on your vehicle. Until next time guys, catch you later.